Hello, BookTube. I have a tag for you today, even though it's Sunday and not Tuesday. I was tagged just recently in an original tag created by Gavin at GenreBooks, and I was tagged by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. Now, Pat and I don't agree on much. In fact, we moltenly hate each other and regularly send each other boxes of live scorpions. But we both want Gavin's channel to blossom. It's really good. It wouldn't displease me at all if Gavin got to 500 subscribers as a result of this tag. That would be great. And he did a tag, he created one, about the Tour de France. So I will leave a link to his video, and I will leave a link to Pat's version of the video, and one other link, which is now must viewing. Joe Spivey did a video about the Tour de France that you really have to watch. He's the only one of us that's actually suited up for he's the only one of us who wouldn't look ridiculous in professional cycling gear. Any more ridiculous than professional cycling gear looks anyway. It looks freakishly insane anyway. I'm always reminded of the immortal words of Kathy Mattea in 465 Rocket, where she says, "Did you boys come to race or just kiss?" Nevertheless, he's actually walked the walk. I have done my share in ye olden days when I was younger than 28. I have done my share, including an event called Ragbri. Registers annual great bike ride across Iowa, which is not particularly grueling, but it's also gorgeously beautiful, just unbelievably beautiful. But it does have its stressor points. Iowa, contrary to what a lot of people who've never been there think, is not flat. It's characterized, most of it, by gentle rolling hills. And the problem with gentle rolling hills is that you will be biking uphill for 4 hours. The great part of that is that when you're done, you'll never see the hill, but you'll definitely feel it. You are biking uphill for an hour. But once you're done with that, you're coasting downhill for the whole rest of the day. It was really kind of neat. A perfect opportunity to get some reading done. But Joe Spivey's video is very much worth reading. I'll leave links to all three of those. And these prompts all revolve around some aspect of the Tour de France. So prompt number 1 is Le Grand Départ, the great departure, this storied thing that gets all the news headlines. A memorable preface, introduction, or opening line. And here, there is a great book. Michelet wrote a great history of the French Revolution. It's huge. It's huge work. I love it. Absolutely love it. I don't actually own a copy, not only because, to the best of my knowledge, Penguin Classics has never done a version of Michelet's French Revolution. I don't think Penguin Classics has actually ever done Carlyle's French Revolution either. But Michelet's is better. But also because even if Penguin did a version of it, it wouldn't be the version that I want. The new, relatively new, 10 years old now, the Pliades edition of Michelet in a 2-volume slipcase is this thing here. Is one of the only books out there that I very much want that I am never going to see at the Brattle Bookshop. It's just never going to happen. And I'm not 100% sure that I would get it even if I did see it there. Because I kind of want somebody to get this for me in France, in Paris. Over the years, I have asked a number of people, would you mind going into, a bookstore and getting me a book? And they say, oh, sure, absolutely, anything you want. And then they realize that not only is it a 2-volume box set that they're going to have to lug back to America, but that it's pricey. And so they don't do it. And I'm never going to see Paris again. But this is very much what I would want. This is an actual book that I actually want, that's new, that I'm never going to see. I talk all the time about how I see everything at the Brattle. I'm unlikely to see this. But I don't like any of the English language translations. The preface, Michelet's translation to his book, is amazing. It's just amazing. The whole book is amazing. But his preface is wonderful. And I don't like any of the English language translations of it, so I'm going to give you a little bit of my own here. This is just a tiny bit from the preface. Oh, poor revolution. On your first day you whispered so intimately, inviting the world to peace and love. My enemies, you said, there are no enemies anymore. You extended your open hand to everybody. You offered the cup of peace to all, and they refused. there's a little bit of a Steve translation of the beginning part of the epic preface of this. It goes on and on. I love it. So properly Gallic start to this Tour de France tag. Then prompt number 2 is Maillot Vert. This is a particular kind of jersey, a green jersey that you get that signifies a whole bunch in Tour de France lore. And the prompt is a book under 150 pages. And here I'm assuming that we are talking about one contiguous work. My mind automatically went to one of the greatest writers of the short story form ever to live, Guy de Maupassant. But he wrote novels as well, and I think this is his final novel, Notre Corps. Notre Corps is lovely. I don't think the prompt here is 150 pages. I don't think the book itself is any longer than that. It'd take you no time at all to read, but it's quite good and unexpectedly moving. I'm not usually moved by Maupassant, but I am moved by that. Did I actually get a picture of that? No, I didn't. I do have pictures for you though, so some of them. Then prompt number 3 is King of the Mountains, a book that you persevered with and are glad you did. And one of the latest examples of that would be this, The Rise of Modern Chinese Thought by Wang Hu. Do you want to come down here? Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go, baby. This was tough. This was tough going. Not so much for the author or the translator, but because it's so steeped in works and traditions about which I know nothing. So it was slow going. I was crawling along. I had to educate myself as I was going. That always slows down a book. Really enjoyed it, but boy, oh boy, the hardcover copy that I unboxed on this channel, it doesn't look new anymore. I lived with that thing for a long time. Then prompt number 4, Maillot Jaune, a book where your yellow is prominent. This is the yellow jersey that goes to the star of the Tour de France. And I confess, for this next one, I probably had Joe Spivey on the mind. I love his channel. Obviously, thousands of you do too. And I'm sure that some of those thousands can spare some love for Gavin's channel, which is also good. But Joe Spivey has said many times that Martin Amis ushered him into actual serious reading, into being the kind of reader where reading means something to you and you love it. Now, he grew as he was reading and realized, okay, you did that, and I'm forever grateful to you for that, but I'm not fetishizing you. I've grown as a reader. I see your many, many flaws. I have had that experience happen to me. I'm always disappointed when young readers, especially young male readers, just don't do the second part. So they get an author who ushers them into the thrill of reading, and then they just say, this is the best author of all time. I will not hear anything against this author. I will no longer read this author critically. You see this all the time with Stephen King, but also with a lot of fantasy authors. And I always think that the authors themselves would not like it. I like to think that most authors, even very successful authors, would not like it if they knew there was a coterie of people out there reading them uncritically. I think they want to be able to earn it, even if they can't. I like that Joe Spivey has that attitude towards Martin Amis, and of course, that attitude had the very predictable effect on me of sending me back to Martin Amis. I watched Martin Amis's career as a critic from literally its beginning to literally its end, and was never impressed by what I was seeing in the fiction side. His nonfiction was often very good, but his fiction always seemed to me to be just the last 10 ideas that he had. I mean, he was an adroit writer. He could write an adroit line of prose. That never faded. It never went away from him. So everything that he wrote, every piece of fiction that he wrote is going to be entertaining in some way, on some level, for some length of pages. But as novels, I don't think I read any that worked as novels. So when I got to a prompt about yellow, I automatically thought of Yellow Dog by Martin Amis, which became famous. This novel is almost incoherent. It's totally self-indulgent, like so much of Amis's fiction. It's totally self-indulgent. And if you're a little bit self-indulgent, then you'll do the cliches that you like and you'll wrap things up for your audience. If you're totally self-indulgent, your book will be almost incomprehensible to anyone who isn't you or in your circle. And this definitely is the second kind, but this became infamous also because I believe it was right around the time of Yellow Dog that critics stopped giving this guy the benefit of the doubt. He had been an enfant terrible. He'd been this amazing meteor on the literary scene. He had set the tone for, you could argue, the tone for the literature of his entire literary set. And critics backed away a step or two from that and thought, okay, well, if there's more than this going on, he got the Jay McInerney treatment, in other words, in America. And this book was when that stopped happening, and a lot of that was because of one book review, one rather infamous book review by Tibor Fischer, who wrote some utterly memorable lines about this book. So I thought of this. I might revisit Yellow Dog, but I don't think that Joe Spivey would disagree with me that even if you revisit Amos with a wide open mind, you're still going to see the flaws. I don't think I'm going to come to much of his work and think, oh, this is better than I remembered, because unlike a lot of other authors, I was watching Martin Amos's career as a critic, reading his books critically, pencil in hand, usually for commissioned review, the whole time, from the beginning to the end of his career. So when I'm doing that, I'm not missing much. Those judgments are a lot less vulnerable to revision than coming on an author on the fly or reading them without knowing much about them or whatnot. But Yellow Dog was on my mind for this prompt. Then we have prompt number 5, Lanterne Rouge, a book you were late to. And, well, this is a little bit of whining, but this is Max Boot's biography of Ronald Reagan. I now have an electronic copy of this. I still don't have a paper galley, and I don't have a finished copy. Finished copies aren't out yet, I don't think. There are paper galleys all over the place. I am the only critic in my acquaintance who does not have one. I can still read the book, because I now have the PDF. But I don't have the paper galley, and that makes me feel like I'm coming to this late. The PDF is fine. I've got an e-reader. I can annotate it. But I want the paper galley. And I guess the subtext here, the insider baseball subtext here is that I don't 100% believe that there are no paper galleys of this existing anymore. I don't 100% believe that. But I have the book, and I hope that I get the finished copy. And I will, I came to the book late. A lot of the critics who are going to write about this are ensconced in it already. I am getting questions from some of them because I'm not ensconced in a book. I don't do ensconcing in a book. I would sit down with this and read it and have all sorts of impressions. First impressions, second impressions. I guess I could do that with the PDF. It's very seldom that I'm told, I'm sorry, we just don't have any paper galleys. Especially when I feel 100% certain, not 99% certain, but 100% certain that if I magically appeared in that cubicle, I would see a stack of them that are just being held for bigger fish than me. Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's certainly going to be a very popular book. It could be that all the galleys went. But then the next category, the next prompt is number 6, Horse category. What's the hardest book that you've read or failed to read? Well, first of all, I don't fail to read books. But the hardest one that I've read in recent memory was this. This is by Philip Ording, and it is 99 Variations on a Proof. And it's incredible. It's incredibly good. I grappled with it for a long time. It's the author trying to make sense of math for myself, who's probably the least mathematical person on the planet. And he actually manages to succeed a lot of the time. I thought that was incredibly impressive. I still go back to this book from time to time. Even though, no matter how many times I've gone back to it, I do not understand it. I do not. Then number 7 is Endurance, your favorite series. I automatically wanted to say John Carter of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs because it's summertime and I've got Barsoom on the mind. But there's another thing that I am slowly picking and pecking at. Penguin Classics, Penguin publisher, did commission lovely new trade paperbacks with new translations of all of the Maigret novels of Simenon. Actually, they did all of Georges Simenon, not just the Maigret stuff, but they did a huge number of these, a big stack of them. I believe that whole run is over. But I loved these translations. I thought were, by and large, so much better than the last English translations that we got. And the cover design, the just the outline, everything about them I loved. And they're not really a series. You could pick up Simenon anywhere, really, and read him. The thing that I most noticed about reading these, I was getting these as they were coming out from the publisher, and the thing I noticed most about them is how entertaining Maigret novels are. They are so entertaining. Some of them are a bit on the unlikely side, but they're so entertaining. And I guess when I was reading those crappy old paperbacks from 50 years ago, I wasn't really noticing that. So, not really a series, but the same character, a lot of the same characters. Then the next prompt here is Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées, Charles de Gaulle. Your favorite Paris novel. Now, I don't know if it's a favorite Paris novel. Probably my favorite Paris novel of all time would be Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo. But more contemporary than that is a novel that I see bashed around a lot for how easy it is, or how histrionic it is, how melodramatic it is. I loved it. Anthony Doerr's book, All the Light We Cannot See, which needs no introduction from me. It's incredibly popular with readers. It's incredibly popular in book clubs and whatnot. And I thought it was fantastic. Just fantastic. Yes, it's syrupy. Yes, it's incredibly manipulative. But I loved it. But I also want to include nonfiction here. It's not a novel, but it reads like one. It's incredibly good to read. And that is Helen Rappaport. This is Life After the Romanovs. Her chronicle of a whole bunch of expats who left Russia and settled in Paris. They could no longer go home, and most of them could no longer use the skills that had made them a living in their homeland. They ended up driving cabs or waiting tables or whatnot. And Helen Rappaport, any of you who know this author, she's terrific, absolutely terrific as a popular historian. And this is probably my favorite of her books. And Paris is very much alive in these pages, very much a part of this book. So I thought that it qualified, and I'm always willing to stick up for nonfiction because people don't read it, and they really should. On many, many levels, All the Light We Cannot See is more entertaining than, or after the Romanovs, is more entertaining than All the Light We Cannot See. And how many people are ever going to try that? How many people are ever going to know that? And then the final prompt is Lance Armstrong. Have you ever cheated with a book to get to the end quicker? I have never done this. I am aware that people do this. I've heard, priestly confessions from a number of readers over the years, people who say, I started skipping chapters. One friend of mine who was addicted to mystery novels said that, well, if I got to the halfway point and it was a little boring, I would start scanning the page for the protagonist, for the hero's name. I figured if he was in the scene, it would probably be important or something. That friend lived long enough to see the novels of Elizabeth George and was baffled by them. Just repulsed, almost, by them. Of course, Elizabeth George is really, really good. The Linley novels are incredibly good, but you get everything but the kitchen sink in those novels. You get every last bit and jot and tittle about every character. And my old friend who loved murder mysteries, oh my God, that would have been torture to him. If he was bored with a book, he would just page through it. I often used to tell him, well, if you're bored with a book, you should drop the book rather than hurry to the end. And always the look on his face was just pious horror. You want me to stop reading a book that I've started? I told him to the end of his life. I said, yes, I do. I do want you to stop reading a book that you've started. If it's not pleasing you anymore, then stop reading it. Never got through to him. And then the final prompt is to tag people, and I want everyone to do this. I know that's a punt as a tag, but I want everyone to do this. This is terrific. I want you to do two things, two calls to action in this video. I want you to go over to Gavin's channel and subscribe. It's just, it costs you nothing, and it's a perk in the arm to him. I don't always agree, as you know. I don't agree with the emphasis that a lot of people put on subscriber counts on BookTube. I don't really like that, and I don't like how YouTube encourages us to like that and to pay attention to it. But there's something magical about the number 500. If you have 500 subscribers, you know that you're talking to an audience. You know that people who don't know you like your channel. There's something magical about that as a number. Maybe it doesn't make any sense, but feel free to go and subscribe to his channel. And also, if you have a channel, feel free to do this video. Feel free to do this tag because it's a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.